the first step to that is understanding that when you're out there, when you're dating, there's a lot of people that will actually put on this facade. You and I talked about tertiary, secondary, and primary truth.
It's not possible. It's not going to happen for me. I'm going to be alone forever. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are making evolution possible for growth-minded humans, just like all of you, through vulnerable lessons, stories, and data and tech. I am your host, Bianca Thomas.
And I am your host, Emilia Smith. Welcome back. 141 Motivation Monday. As always, happy Monday, y'all. If you're listening to this on Monday, we really hope to get the juice of vibing with you. If you haven't listened to our last episode 140, Bianca and I really got passionate in there. So if you haven't
just
listened
a little
to that,
bit,
listen to it. We are
just a little bit.
You know what's fascinating? I was having a thought really quick. Well, I'm not going to really say what I was doing before this episode, but essentially, I was thinking to myself, maybe. I was thinking to myself that people who really need that episode are probably not going to click on it. So I'm just excited for that to ripple effect. But anyhow, if you haven't listened to that, take a listen for this Monday. Relationship goals, motivation Monday. Let's talk about that, y'all. All right. 3 simple tips for that perfect relationship. So hopefully if you heard the word perfect just like that, you probably rolled your eyes, just kind of like I did when I saw this, but that's okay. We're going to dig into it. So,
you know what the funny thing is though? For anyone listening, I'm just going to say it. Emilia has the closest thing to a perfect relationship that is out there. I know that's a bold statement. I know that's a blunt statement. I say it confidently. So
appreciate you, girl.
There is no one better to listen to this from than her. So we are going to do, I love you. I got you. So we are going to do kind of Q&A style again for anyone who listened to last week's Motivation Monday. We did something very similar. It's also a very similar topic. So I did that intentionally. It's going to be Q&A style. I'm going to ask Emilia some questions. She's going to give us some answers. And the questions that I ask are going to be based on things that I have struggled with and things that I know a lot of other people are probably struggling with right now when it comes to relationships, dating, love life, whatever. So
lovers.
#lovers. I think the first question that I want to ask, and this is something that I know you and I have talked about a lot and something that even to this day I struggle with. What would you say to all of the people out there who don't believe that love is possible, that having that relationship that they want? I know you're having that face. You and I literally had a conversation about this the other day. So what would you say to everyone who says, it's not possible, it's not going to happen for me, I'm going to be alone forever?
Sad. I'll just start by saying that makes me so sad.
A lot of people feel that way though. There's so many people out there who genuinely just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I know. It breaks my heart, but it also gets me super excited because that's where I can add value to the world in an area that I'm deeply passionate about and that I know I've helped so many people with and will continue for the rest of my life try, because I deeply believe that the crux of all of the challenges that we have in this world are at a very deep root of this, of love, of relationships, and our misconceptions about how they work, and that thought pattern that keeps perpetuating. So the first thing that I would say is, while I really appreciate the credit earlier, B, that you gave, and I always will appreciate that because no one will really have the humility and the love and all of that which you have, which can give me that. So I'm really grateful for that. Genuinely, I work very, very hard to ensure my intimate relationship is as close as I can possibly get it to something truly extraordinary. And that is an every single day challenge. And I just want to make sure that I say to all of our listeners out there that at one point I also struggled to a degree, maybe not to the same exact degree that you as our listeners and as our community members that might be listening, maybe not to the same degree, but certainly like I'm human, like I have struggled with that before, where trying to believe that this person who is quote unquote my version of, I like to say perfectly imperfect because I really don't fully believe in perfection. I think that our idea of perfection is actually like this narrative that I think that the ego likes to create, and we glorify perfection as a concept out of fear of our inability to manage the imperfect. So we'll start with that. But anyhow, so what I would say to everyone that's in our community when they might be in this phase, again, I automatically go to phase because I have that belief that it's not going to be always, right? So I would say that the pessimism or the space that you're in right now, it doesn't have to be that way forever. However, I do believe we have a magnificent power deeply within us, which is choice. And focusing in on what is within our control when we might be in this state is really, really deeply important. And the why to that is essentially like if we're focusing on, the negative, the things that aren't going to serve us, the things that are completely out of our control, and letting that build and further put bricks into the narrative that this person for me just doesn't exist. Love for me, it just doesn't exist. This, like, I'm not going to be attractive. I have a client right now that's just like, I don't really necessarily see myself as attractive. And it's like, okay, cool. We can start from there. But you can control that. You can control how you see yourself to a certain extent. And I know not everyone might believe that, but let's start here. Building self-efficacy behind the scenes is absolutely important. And what do I mean by that? I mean, for anyone that really is trying to aspire to have even a remotely normal, quote unquote, normal for them, right? I don't mean normal in general because there's no such thing. Again, a concept. A relationship that is going to serve them, that is going to help them be the best version of themselves, that is going to help them feel love, that is going to help them really achieve or aspire or be the best version of themselves, right? They first have to focus in on what they can control and build more evidence for themselves that their circle of control can be expanded outwards. So what do I mean by that? It really comes down to setting an intention, following through that, and proving to yourself that you are lovable, you are worthy, you are enough, you can do things, you are attractive, all this jazz. So what does that look like on the ground level? It might look like saying in your head when you first wake up, I want to make my bed today. I'm going to make my bed today. And then you make your bed. That's a small example of building self-efficacy. And you might be like, Emilia, how the hell does that connect to building a perfect relationship for me? How does that connect to my belief that that person's out there and that they might exist in this world? Well, as you start to do things behind the scenes that help show you who you are, that build your own confidence within yourself, you do that and then you start to expand that kind of bubble of what is within your control, and it starts to spill over into the quote unquote world where you now start to, maybe it starts with getting out of bed. Maybe then it's making your bed. Maybe then it's going to the gym. Maybe then it's, getting, a better grocery list or whatever. You start to build that circle. And then all of a sudden you find yourself not fearing rejection and failure as much. So how does that translate into the dating world? Well, maybe you actually are ready to approach someone that you find really attractive, or you love their energy, you love their vibe, and you give them a compliment. Right? Those small, seemingly baby steps behind the scenes of building self-efficacy when no one was looking and when the stakes were really, really low, you might not connect it to that outside belief of that person's just not out there. But trust me, my friends and everyone, including you, B, those little things build up because that circle of control starts to expand, but not if you don't have the evidence to show yourself, to build evidence to the contrary belief that, in fact, they're literally waiting for you to expand that circle of control so that they can get into your gravitational pull of attraction.
To one of the earlier points that you made, Esther Perel said this in one of the talks that she gave. Your quote unquote soulmate doesn't exist. You're going to find someone who has a perfect mix of problems and their own traumas and their own bullshit. And you're basically just deciding, is this the version that I want? Like, what am I willing to tolerate? And she's definitely said it more eloquently than I did, but
yeah.
There's so many different ways we can take this episode. Okay, so question number 2. How do you know when you have found the right person for you? Not that they're perfect, not that they were like created by God specifically for you and whatever, right? Whatever your beliefs are. But how do you know that you have met, attracted, landed upon the right person for you? Your perfect mix of their own bullshittery that you're willing to tolerate and work through and accept. Because we all have our own shit. Like, we all have our own stuff, for lack of a better phrase. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So how do you know that versus like, there's too many flags here?
That is such a great question. There's nothing simple about that.
Of course there isn't.
But
it's me and you.
I love it.
When is it ever?
Hopefully people are like really like digging this. So I like the sauce. We're getting saucy. So all right. So how do you know what is a good level of like, okay, this is too much? Actually, I get this question all the time. It's multi-layered. And I think that the first step to that is understanding that when you're out there, when you're dating, there's a lot of people that will actually put on this facade. You and I talked about tertiary, secondary, and primary truth. So for anyone who is interested in kind of learning that context to apply to this conversation, which I think is just in general really helpful for all of us to understand, you might have heard it in the term of like people have different faces when they go out into the world, or they have different version of themselves. Essentially, your tertiary truth is the truth that you say, like, because you don't know how to communicate to the rest of the world what you really actually feel deep down. And
you probably don't know what it is either.
You don't even know what it is. And so you're just grasping at words that might make sense to the receiver and in a way that probably is trying to optimize for social belonging. Your secondary truth is, okay, this is pretty much what I'm going to tell the world, and it might have a little bit more of my truth that I understand in it, but like not the full truth. So like if you've ever like, you know, a great example of this is like when couples of like, babe, how do I look? Right? Like that you have, you know, someone standing in the mirror and their partner is sitting on the bed. They're getting ready to go out to something or to go do something. And there's one partner that asks like, babe, how do I look? Right? We all know how this goes. The tertiary truth would be like, great. Right?
Does my ass look fat? Do I look good in these jeans? The answer is always yes.
All of that.
Wait,
right?
no. The answer is always whatever the positive is. Like, the answer is not always yes.
Whatever the most socially acceptable truth is, right? Yeah. That reduces the level of conflict that might be had. The secondary truth is, well, yeah, you look great. I love you. But I'm wondering why you need that external validation. Because you always look great. The primary truth is a very concerned, honey, you always look great. I love you so much. You don't need that external validation. Girl, you know that and I want you to acknowledge it. And as your partner, if that's what you need, if that's what you want, and I'm not giving you enough words of affirmation, I need to step up my game. So yes, you look incredible. All these things.
Can we use a different example? That didn't land.
Okay.
Like, I understand the concept, so I understand what you're talking about. But for anyone listening, I don't think that landed because those all kind of sound the same.
Okay. So actually, this might even be better. Being on the person who's standing in front of the mirror side, right? They ask a question. How do I look? They ask that question. They don't understand why they might be asking it. They don't understand what their primary truth is and why they're asking it.
So their tertiary truth, their third outer ring truth is, I am looking for an answer from this person.
Yes.
What's the secondary truth?
Secondary truth is
It's what they're saying to themselves.
Yes, I'm a little insecure. I don't know necessarily if my partner likes my outfit. Okay, let's get their opinion.
Primary truth is what?
Primary truth is I don't realize this. However, I feel like my needs in terms of words of affirmation aren't necessarily being met in my relationship proactively in the way that I actually would like. And so I feel like I need to ask this question in order to get that need met by my partner.
Or you feel insecure, and so you're looking for them to validate you, which is why the question is coming out towards them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, so if that was something that you might benefit from a visual on, what I think we should do is we actually should include our digital asset that we used for Out of the Mud, and we'll put it in the show notes. So anyways, okay, to that extent, I don't know how we got there, but essentially we started with everyone is really giving that tertiary truth when they're interacting with people, because
you're talking about dating.
Yeah, people
that everyone is giving their tertiary truth.
Right. So people are always, it's very rare where you see people speaking from their primary truth. It's very rare because that is a skill that is developed over time with loads of conscious effort. And so when you recognize this and you're working towards that seemingly perfect relationship for you, when it comes to being in the dating scene, and to your earlier question, like, how do you know what's like how this person is right for you, and if whether or not their baggage is what you can handle and what you want, for lack of better words, a lot of it starts with that awareness of, okay, they're probably going to show you their best side because they want this relationship to work out to some extent or another, whether that's a mutual needs being served and met in this relationship or not. And so acknowledging that, I don't want to say let's bring in a ton of skepticism, but be mindful about the reality of what might be primary truths, i.e. baggage that you maybe can't see. And so that's where having those vulnerable, courageous conversations with partners way before you really start to put your heart on the line, because I work with a lot of people that really are going out there, and I'm so proud of them. However, like as they start to grow older and put themselves out there, the recovery phase isn't, I've noticed for a lot of people in the relationship realm, it's a lot harder to bounce back from maybe a rejection on a date or ghosting or whatever, as quote unquote time ticks, right? So being mindful about having those courageous conversations so that you do feel as though you have a degree of awareness. And it's kind of like peeling an onion. Like I always go to like the Shrek quote where the donkey says like, "You like an onion, boy, you're afraid of your own feelings," like something like that. So we're unlayering through conversations. So every single conversation that you do have with your relationship, you want to kind of get a layer deeper, right? You don't just want to stay on that surface level of the tertiary truths. You want to have those vulnerable conversations and work through that. And I know that there's someone, be that you and I both know that they're doing that right now, and it's scary, right? But in order to have a really quality relationship for that person's standards and their what they're looking for, that vulnerability, that understanding this person's baggage, their challenges, you want to share in that naturally, and you want to co-create a relationship. And how can you do that if you're not necessarily aware of what your partner or what your human, whoever you're dating, is struggling through? You know, some people don't care, but that's where every single person has a different level. So to finalize this, I would say understand what you can, I don't want to say tolerate, but what are you willing to take on as your own? Because some people are not emotionally available to the extent where they have the emotional capacity to take on someone else's challenges. And that's, you know, the majority of people don't necessarily walk around and be like, "Hey, who wants to take my family baggage? Oh, my cultural bag? Okay, who else wants my money baggage?" You know, like all these things, you know, like we don't go out there in our dating profiles and say like, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. Who wants to take it on?" You know?
Yeah, seriously. Okay, we do got to start wrapping up. So I will ask you one final question, and it's going to be a blunt question. I want a simple
Let's get it.
answer.
All right, I'll take a big breath.
To anyone out there listening, if you could give them one piece of advice for what it takes to have a magnificent, not just a good, not a great, a magnificent relationship, what would that be? Keep it short because we got to wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, shit.
It's 3-pronged, but it starts with the word practice. Practice achievement, practice gratitude, practice humility. Those are my 3 things that I would say to anyone that wants their idealistic version of perfectly imperfect. Practice those 3 things. Practice the achievement on your own so that you have that level of self-efficacy, whether it be making your bed or doing something in the gym. Bring that into your relationship. Pour it in. Practice gratitude. Starts with you, right? Be grateful for your twinkle toes in the morning. Reference to another episode. Right? Bring that into your relationship. You can do that together if you want. Practice humility. The humility that you have within your own life, based on maybe 1 and 2, is something that you can bring into your relationship, and something to be really beautiful to be shared in your relationship. And everyone's level of that might look different, but that's the 3-pronged one answer that I'd give.
I love it. Beautiful. Well said. Episode suggestion?
Episode suggestion. I actually didn't have one prepared for that. So that's
Womp. All right,
yep,
I'll give 2.
That's a flop. Okay.
Nope. I'll give 2.
You.
Number 6, how to uncover your relationship standards.
Ooh, yeah.
Number 7, relationships, why you need standards.
Well, that probably would have been the one that I would have touched upon. So
there you go.
Appreciate
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. We hope this was helpful. If you want more guidance, help, advice, feedback on relationships, please feel free to reach out to Emilia and myself. I would say go to Emilia. She's way better in this arena than I am. So reach out to us and we'll see you next time.
Bye everyone.